Hey guys, um, hopefully everyone is doing all right. So, in term 3, we have planned that we will be doing timber with you guys, and obviously, there is um, lockdown restrictions, so things will have to change slightly. So, we have to adapt what we planned to best suit everyone. So we might not necessarily have time to cover all this, uh, depending on what the university guidelines turn out to be in terms of access to the university. But we will see how it goes, and then please bear with us because we will adapt the content and the requirements as we go along, as we hear from the university. So today I'm just going to introduce the joining techniques and then give you guys a brief on joining techniques. This brief, the assignment will be due in 2 weeks' time. While you guys are busy working on this assignment, next week we will start covering this content here on Timber. Then the plan, it may or may not end up being like that. From this content, you guys will have to write a test. So that means you will get marks from this assignment with the brief given today, and you get marks again from writing a test from this content. Cool. So the joining techniques. So at this point, if we were on face-to-face time on campus, this will be where I pause a bit and then ask you guys why you think it is important to join. There are many reasons beyond those that I'm going to give you, which you guys can think about. But some of the reasons I have as to why it is important to join would be some products, even the simplest ones, are too large to be made by individual processes. If then they are too big to make in a single piece, that means it involves different processes and then having to be joined at the later stage. You might find yourself having to uh, design or make products that involve that step. Second reason, or another reason being, you need joining, or joining is important because it makes it easier and more economical to manufacture and join individual components. A good example of this would be if you were to make a cooking pot, for instance. You know, a cooking pot, the way it is applied, you need for the material to conduct heat. But then again, you need to hold the pot such that it doesn't burn you. So you will make it with the metal and a polymer or plastic, and then have to join the two because you need those two functions in a cooking pot. So the other reason that I will give you guys would be products which are meant to be disassembled for maintenance. Joining makes it important or possible for you to do such. The last one would be, let me think now, transportation. If you make a product, it's a big product. It's much easier and better to disassemble it so it can make it easy for transportation. It is less costly to do so. This would be things like big machinery, which you buy in pieces and assemble them at your destination. Cool. So you guys can think of many other reasons why it is important to join products. In general, there is a range of joining techniques that are used in various manufacturing operations. This include metallurgical joining techniques. The metallurgical joining techniques are common or almost entirely applicable only in metals. Why? Because they involve uh, atoms of one metal diffusing into the other. So these three, brazing, soldering, and welding, they involve two pieces of metal joined by the process called diffusion, elements of one diffusing into the other and then ending up as one piece. These metallurgical joining techniques are sometimes called hot joining techniques. And these are the typical examples. There are also mechanical joining techniques. These are usually both for metals and wood, and they are also referred to, unlike this ones, which are sometimes referred to as hot joining techniques, these are cold joining techniques. This include these ones that are listed here and many more. And this can be applied to both metals and wood. There are also adhesives, which can be natural adhesives or synthetic ones. Again, this can be applied for both uh, metals and wood, while these are exclusively for metals. And then in all these uh, joining techniques, they can either be permanent or non-permanent, and these ones would be the permanent ones. Some of the mechanical ones can be permanent and some can be non-permanent. The permanent ones, even though they're cold ones, like riveting for instance, it is permanent in that to put it apart you have to destroy the rivet itself. Whereas these other ones that are non-permanent is a matter of unscrewing the bolts and nuts and all that. But this you have to destroy the actual joint, not the component. You destroy the actual joint of the rivet if you want to put it apart. That's why it's permanent. And then the adhesives, obviously, all of them are permanent. So again, at this point, this would be where I pose a question to you guys and say, what are the typical reasons why one would choose to have a non-permanent joining technique? And then the answer, since you can't answer me now, would be it is usually important where a product is expected to undergo modification, repairs, and things like that. So you would go for a non-permanent joining technique because you want to put components together to maintain it or to modify it at the later stage. Then you guys can think of other reasons as well. First, defining the word joining as the process of connecting or joining two pieces of wood together through the use of various forms of wood joints. The common techniques or the common joints that are usually used would be the adhesives. We're talking about wood here, would be the adhesives. It will be the nails or screws or knockdown fittings. So as part of the assignment that you're going to get, you guys have to go research the typical joining techniques, wood joining techniques. Look out for all this. Find out what type of adhesives are there and which ones are suitable, which ones are better than the other. Similarly, there are different types of nails and screws that you use for finishing, for various reasons, for machines and all that. There is plenty, so it's important to know which type is suitable for what application. And then the knockdown fittings, this will be the ones that you don't use either the screws or the adhesives, but it's more of the two pieces being snug tightly and by just slotting into place. And then what is important to consider when joining wood, and I've just given a few key areas to consider, but there's obviously a lot more than this, which you guys also have to look out for when you're doing your research. So, one of the things that I've listed here is surface area. This is very important, especially when you are doing the joints which rely solely on the strength of the glue. The second important thing that I have here is the loading direction. Depending on where the process or the product is going to be applied, uh, and if it's going to carry weight, additional weight, or its own weight, you need to bear that in mind. That's what I'm referring to by loading direction here, because some joints are better fitting or they're stronger depending on the load carrying capacity that the product would be designed to carry. If it's going to encounter some sort of loading, like a desk, like a chair, like many other wood products that are meant to carry weight. Obviously, you care about the finishing quality, aesthetics, like decoration, how the joint is going to look, or whether you want it to be concealed or visible as part of decoration or not. That's the finishing quality. And another point that I have, readily available resources. This is very relevant to us because we try and equip you guys with information and skills and knowledge on the equipment that we have in the workshop. So this would be the typical thing again in a company, in the industry, because what the company has is restricted to that. Obviously, you can outsource some things, but it is important to know what the workshop has, what the company has, and that's has to be factored in terms of the considerations that you need. Lastly, the ease of fabrication. Obviously, when you are in the business of making products, you want to not spend a lot of time. Ideally, you want to make multiple products so you can make money. So you have to factor that in. Some of the joints are very time consuming, they need a lot of work to do, and you're going to encounter that or understand that as time goes on. There is a lot more reasons than this, but I thought these are um, arguably the key considerations in terms of joining techniques. The reason why I was saying surface area is important is if you look at a butt joint and compare it to a lap joint, and then you rely only on the strength that you get from the glue. That one, the lap joint will be stronger than the butt joint because there is a lot more surface area to which you apply the glue on the lap joint compared to the butt joint, and that translates to additional strength. Similarly, if you were to apply the glue on many other types like the housing joint or the dovetail. So the more surface area you have, the stronger the joint will be. That's why I was saying surface area is important, but only if you're relying on that, because there are additional ways to increase strength if you don't only rely on glue. Other than the surface area, when you come to loading, it is also important, and one of the things that you need to consider there is the application of the product in service to factor in whether the joint will experience compression loading or tension loading and or torsion loading, depending on the type of loading that the product that you're making is going to experience in service. You have to factor that in. Reason being, different joints have different capabilities, strengths, and weaknesses, and some are better fitting depending on your desires than the others. Overall, you guys need to be creative and think of um, being decorative and all that. But the important thing is, while you do that, it is important to combine strength, quality finish, and time efficiency. And in addition to that, it is also important to note that even though different joints have different strengths, there are additional things that you can do to the joints to increase or to improve the strength. This include things like having biscuits in the joints or dowel pins or splines and many other tricks that are out there. This would be part of the things that you have to look out for when you are doing research for your joint techniques. That brings us to the end of that short intro on timber or wood joining techniques and the assignment that is linked to that.